This episode of the Coarse podcast has been brought to you by Central Sports and Graphics Incorporated, family-owned and operated screen printing and embroidery business located in a historic storefront on Old Berwick Road in the heart of Espy. They've been doing screen printing for over 20 years. They have high-quality product at a low price. Be sure to check them out. Central Sports and Graphics Incorporated, 570-784-1212. Now, on to the show.
Duffy, you guys know me. I'm that chef guy that everybody says, hey, don't I know you from somewhere? And I am super stoked to be with Sean Rossler on the Coarse Grind podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Episode number 184 of the Coarse Grind podcast. With you as always this evening, host creator Sean Rossler. How the hell is everyone doing tonight? Happy Valentine's Day, kids. It's a day of love. It's not a day of love. It's a day of massacres. And that's where it came from. So stop celebrating it. The end. I'm sorry. I'm kidding. I'm jaded. Anywho, hey, listen, if there's one thing we enjoy here on the podcast, it's the hot stuff. Speaking of Valentine's Day, see what I did there? That's called a tie-in. Take a note. And not just the hot for the sake of being hot stuff. There's plenty of that around. Oh, bro, can you handle the sauce of dead babies from hell? While that may be fun from time to time, and certainly bragging rights worthy, though the question of it being worth it or not is based strongly in your southern pain tolerance, it's a true joy to find someone doing something equally hot, equally daring, but different. And thanks to a longtime amigo of the show, Big Mitch Miller, tonight we bring you a guest who's married two seemingly unrelated things, hot sauce and kombucha. Tonight's guest has been cooking professionally all of his adult life, discovering that passion early on in adulthood was a very lucky break and allowed him to focus his attention on developing his craft. He's been an executive chef, food and beverage manager, and culinary director. It got to the point where he couldn't do the corporate cooking culture anymore and needed to remind himself of why he fell in love with cooking in the first place. To exercise his creativity and spread joy through food, fermented food at that. See, his and his partner's goal is to have a large catalog of quality products and encompass a broad scope of customers. Fermenting is in their everyday life and is such a time-honored tradition in food preparation, yet most people don't necessarily know of its prevalence in the daily routine. They want to get back to their roots, so to say, and educate the public about the magic of fermenting. Listen, here on the show, we've done kombucha, we've done hot sauce. Can we do both in one episode? Listen, I've tried it, and I know we can, so let's go. Ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between, one of the twisted minds behind the marriage of kombucha and hot sauce, Shawn Kirkpatrick. What's going on, buddy?
How's it going, Sean?
It is going well, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you for the kind gift package that we lovingly featured on Tries It. It was delicious, and so obviously we don't typically have tryouts, but listen, that didn't hurt your chances of having a seat in the interview chair. So thanks again, buddy. Glad to have you on. Folks new to the program, folks with terrible short-term memories, like yours truly, starters, mains, and afters. Starters, we're going to talk to the guest about where they came from, what the backstory is on what it is they're doing. Mains, we'll talk about where they're at, what it is they're doing, present tense. And finally, afters, no one's been injured in 183 episodes. A little bit more irreverent, a little bit more off the cuff. I don't see anyone getting hurt tonight, so fingers crossed. So without further ado, let's lean into starters. Let's find out where this fine gentleman, Sean Kirkpatrick, from Down To Ferment, comes from. Sean Kirkpatrick, tell me about where and what you grew up eating.
Basically, a lot of bad cooking.
Okay, talk to me about what bad cooking looks like for you.
My mom, there's also a running joke in my family that my mom can burn spaghetti.
Ooh, that's not good.
Yeah, so she's not the best cook. However, my dad tried as best he could, but a lot of stuff that we had was like Hamburger Helper and whatnot like that. So it wasn't. I was never fully immersed in a culture of cooking, I guess you could say. Gotcha. And I can relate. Folks who have heard the interview I did with my mom, and folks who have heard me wax nostalgic, you know, I didn't necessarily come from a culinary household, so I can
definitely relate to you on that. But even those things, there is some exploration. There is some exploration in culinary. So I gotta ask, growing up, were you a picky eater, or did you pretty much eat whatever was put in front of you?
The funny thing is I actually was slightly a picky eater when I was a kid. I remember I hated mushrooms so much.
Nice.
And I always used to pick mushrooms out of, like, the spaghetti, off my pizza and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom would always give me a hard time for it. But as I got older and, late teens, early 20s, I just opened my mind up to more. What really opened my mind up was I actually tried mushrooms when I was, like, 18 years old, with an open mind, and started to really like them. And from there, it expanded everything. Now I literally eat anything.
Yeah, I almost feel like we have to specify here in the days of Vice TV. He's talking about the mushrooms that you eat as food, kids. Expanding his mind. Let's just clarify that. So I totally hear you, and it's it's really cool to hear kind of an upbringing that parallels something I'm familiar with. And while you say like, hey, look at how much I've learned, there's always a food or grouping of foods that you still think back on and think, damn, it'd be nice to go back. Any foods that you maybe grew up with before that, culinary inspiration that give you that nostalgia? Like, was there any food or dish that you grew up with that you'd love to go back and revisit?
Yeah, I used to hate corned beef and cabbage.
Ooh, okay.
Corned beef and cabbage is like one of those things where, like, I never wanted to touch it, but just like mushrooms. And the funny thing, going back to the mushrooms thing, is now mushrooms, they're like one of my favorite foods, and I eat all sorts of different mushrooms.
Right on, right on.
But yeah, corned beef and cabbage was one of those things that I always, were like, I had to revisit after the fact of, like, I hated it so bad. I hated, like, the boiled potatoes in it and stuff like that. But now as an adult, as my tastes changed and stuff like that, it's like, oh, this is actually not as bad as I thought it was.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And that mushroom thing is such a big trip up for a lot of people. Again, just thinking of my own experience, because the only thing that you come up with necessarily is like the white mushroom, the button mushroom. Once you start to be introduced to portobellas, oysters, creminis, shiitakes, and beyond, you realize, like, it doesn't just have to taste like shitty dirt.
Exactly. Portobellos were my gateway, essentially.
Yeah. Well, yeah, for sure. And there was that time, I don't know if we necessarily share age. I'm going to just assume to make myself feel good that we do. But you're probably way younger than me. I remember the whole craze where it was like, oh man, you can use this portobello like a burger and, like a piece of bread, like on Iron Chef Japan, they'd use, the actual mushroom caps as bread for a burger. It was mania, and people ate it up. And I think that's how people came into, oh my God, there's, puffball, lion's mane, all these other things that have different flavors. Chicken of the woods, and now the focus on foraging, everyone thinks, oh, mushrooms are so avant-garde, they're amazing. Like, they're growing on dead shit in the woods, kids. I don't know how to say that nicely, but that's really cool. So, interesting question. This will be an interesting spin. Given your upbringing, given how you kind of pivoted into culinary, which I want to talk about in a little bit, but obviously food had to some way make an impact on you to make a decision like that, to make it your life. Was there a culinary influence on you growing up, let's say like 18 and before, that you looked at and you went, wait a minute, cooking's kind of different, or cooking's cool, or cooking can change things? Was there somebody like that for you?
Actually, yeah. When I took like they don't call it really home ec anymore, but when I took a foods class in high school, I realized that I was the only one that was taking it seriously, and nice. I was the only one that actually like tried. And I had always been into food from then on, and it was like that kind of awoke my passion for food. And then I got a prep cook job and just started going from there. It was like it was the chain reaction of, oh, I'm actually good at this. I really want to do this. I care about this. And it was just that passion that I was like, I want to get better at this constantly.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I think now, at least for my kids, it's called FCS, Family Consumer Science, which I definitely think is like a cooler title for it, because home economics kind of falls flat. At least that presents it as, you know, there's a bit more to it.
I wish it was actually just like focused on food, because the older I get, the more I realize that so many adults actually don't know how to cook for themselves.
Oh God, no. Well, not only do they not know how to cook for themselves, they don't know how to budget a meal out. Like, to go out and like parse out, like, okay, prime example, my wife turned 40, and, you know, she was super dope vacation planner, takes me out to California, your neck of the woods, sir, and we landed in Buellton, home of Sideways, and we stayed at the Sideways Inn, and we drove up the coast, up 100, and ended up in San Francisco with some stops along the way. So, you know, I had to keep up with this, so I planned this, like, mega kick-ass, the pool just went in the backyard party, and fortunately, I have really smart chef friends, but we were able to, like, shop for it and put it together. I don't want to say on the cheap, but I think if you hang out with people who know their ass from their elbow in the culinary industry...
100%.
Dude.
You know where to get it all.
Yeah.
You know how to purchase.
Like, I don't think I'm blowing anything up here to say, like, we had 40 people fat and happy for under 500.
Yeah, easy.
You just got to know what to do. So that's a great point, and that's a super great plug for the public education system, home ec, FCS, whatever you're calling it these days. And what a great way for you to find inspiration. So let's jump forward from that. You know, realizing you realized early on in adulthood, you know, and you said, you know, I've always been a chef. But when was the moment that you went, my God, this is my life. This is what I want to do?
Probably about 18, 19 when I was getting that prep cook. It had always been a huge thing for me. It just kind of immediately clicked.
Yeah.
There were doubts along the way. 100% there were doubts. But because it's a rough industry to get into. It truly is.
Yeah. Yeah, people have such a misconception about it that you just kind of walk on. And, you know, Bourdain did a great job of presenting it as like the last bastion of the social outcast. To an extent, there's some truth to that. But at the same time, you can't be a total mess and survive in this industry. You know, and again, I'm speaking as an outsider. I'm not trying to say I know really anything, but I've talked to enough people where it's like, okay, you can kind of piece it together. There's some of the myth is true and some of the truth is myth. Somewhere in the middle is where it lies. So you figure this out, and how do you go from that moment then, Shawn, to Down to Ferment, to combining fermentation, kombucha style, and hot sauce? How do you get there? Tell me about that journey.
That is many years of A, trial and error, B, constantly wanting to expand my culinary repertoire, if you will, my culinary resume, not just for like jobs or anything, but mostly for myself. Because again, having a passion for cooking is literally my biggest thing is expanding my culinary knowledge for just myself and just trying to be a better cook for myself. And then also going through the corporate world and realizing, you know, I was an executive chef for a catering company, a small business, and we did really, really well. And that was like 5 years, but the lifestyle just didn't sit well with me. And then I went into corporate thinking I would get a little bit more balance, but that never really turns out either. And then it's all those corporate Kool-Aids that you have to drink and just, you know, play like a team member when you realize that they're just screwing you and all your employees over.
Yeah. Well, because I was actually going to ask you that, because this is a question I don't think in 183 episodes have the chance to ask. Like, I have to imagine, like, you almost become, if I can just use a medical term, creatively neutered when you go into corporate. Like, sure, it's secure,
100%.
It's secure,
100%.
but you're no longer the artist that you want to be.
That's the problem, and the last job I was at, I was a culinary director for a retirement community. It wasn't like one of those care facilities or anything like that. It was more so like an upscale, like think of it as like an upscale hotel for the rich elderly.
Okay.
And, we had to fall under a certain corporate umbrella with certain things, but I wanted to give my residents the 5-star treatment,
Sure.
and constantly. And I was so good at my job and managing my food costs that I was able to put, filet mignon on the menu every night and have fresh cut salmon. Literally, I never use frozen salmon. I always get the fresh stuff, got it in, filleted it myself that day. That's where the passion is doing all that stuff the right way. And I was able to manage all my costs and do it that way. But it's again, they try to put you in a box.
Yeah.
And try to put you in your own little, hey, you need to, what really got to it was soups, honestly. They wanted us to start using bagged soups, and I refused. I was like, nah, I can't do this. Sorry. Soups are the most cost-effective way for any chef to use a product.
Yeah.
And leftovers, anything.
Exactly.
And when you start going into bagged soups, you're literally taking the soul out of culinary.
Completely. And there's two things that you said I have to call out because, first of all, I know we have a culinary student listenership. So I want to speak to you directly. Listen to what Chef just said. He broke down the parts. He used fresh. Listen, you can get Cisco, you can get whoever to bring you the pre-portioned 4-ounce fillets, partitions, parts, whatever. Your cost just doubled. If you want to succeed, you do the work yourself. It's a bit of work, but again, from a cost perspective, come on. The other thing is that soup comment, kids and adults, listen, folks that don't know how to cook for themselves. Do you want something easy? Look around at the random parts that are sitting around, figure out how chicken stock inserts into it. You got a soup. Go from there. Go from there. Use it. Like your two leftover baked potatoes. Cube them up. Put them in.
Blend it up. Make a baked potato soup.
I got leftover peas. I got leftover baked potatoes, and I got some bacon. Why do you have leftover bacon? I don't know. That's a problem on your end. But again, boom. There's a soup. Right in the chicken base. So anyway, makes total sense of why you'd want to walk away. So you walk away, and was it right into Down to Ferment, or were there other stops?
No, it was into a hiatus. It was into let me rediscover myself hiatus. It was. Okay. I had a bunch, I did a really good job with saving my money, and I was able to, take a 3-month into almost a 6-month hiatus.
Nice.
And be able to kind of rediscover my passions and my drives and what I wanted out of life, because especially the culinary industry, it can really, I guess, cloud what you're really looking for. You can either start to become, one of those people that you get put into a box of what, you should do and move up the corporate ladder and stuff like that. And that's what I really wanted to do, is I wanted to move up the corporate ladder. I wanted to go into regional. I wanted to go into having my own, few properties instead of being the director of one and, all that stuff. But it just got to the point where I'm just, do I actually want to do this? Do I want to put myself in a box and not explore more of what I want and not have that work-life balance and understand that, this is my passion and I'm not going to let it get taken away from me.
So you do this. Clearly you do this.
Mm-hmm.
And the outcome is this wonderful marriage, or at least the present day outcome, anyway, is this marriage of fermentation and hot sauce. Now listen, kids, if you've been paying attention, we know that a lot of Asian hot sauces come from the fermentation background, sriracha being probably up and amongst the number one spot. It might be the number one spot, I don't know. But the angle that these folks take on it is to marry kombucha and hot sauce together. And so you come into Down to Ferment.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me about what that lightning bolt looked like that made you go, holy shit, these two things go together. Because I wouldn't, for the life of me, ever marry those two things, and yet you did it. And again, folks, watch the Tries It video, order their stuff today, downtoferment.com. You're going to know what I'm talking about. So how did that come up?
A lot. So here, the funny thing is when I quit my job, or right before I quit my job, and I'm like, you know what, I'm done with this. I got really, really into heavy fermentation. I was like, I'm going to start making my own kombucha. I really am getting more and more and more into hot sauce and like wanting my own hot sauces and stuff like that. I've always been a fan of hot sauce. I just never explored the realm, and started to realize how big the hot sauce is now, like the craft beer
Amen.
scene.
Yep.
It's kind of insane. The more and more I delved into it, I was like, oh wow, there's actually decent hot sauces on there. It started from like buying hot sauce on Amazon, which they have an almost terrible selection from what I've seen, to going into like all these like little mom and pop stuff and little things. But then I was like, I want to make my own hot sauce. I don't want to just keep buying hot sauce or anything like that. So, going from kombucha and making my own kombucha and going into, fermented garlic, fermented peppers and everything like that. And it just trial and error. And I realized, because everybody makes hot sauce, like 95-ish%, and that's a number I totally threw out of my ass, by the way. 95-ish% hot sauce on the shelves you see has some sort of vinegar in it.
Right.
And what the vinegar does is, it creates, in order to be a shelf-stable ingredient, it has to be below a certain pH.
Right.
Funny thing is kombucha and vinegar are actually made in essentially the same way. They're both acetic acid fermentations. But I'm not one of those people. I'm a from scratch person. So if I wanted to make hot sauce, it was going to be completely from scratch. I wasn't going to go down to the store, grab some vinegar, add vinegar to it, and then, call it a day. I was going to make it all myself.
Yeah.
And I also realized that if I brewed my kombucha to a certain pH, it could still be shelf stable and not overwhelm, because most vinegars store-bought are around 2 to 2.5 pH.
Now, let me jump in real quick, Sean, because I'm sure people are furrowing their brows and going, wait a minute, vinegar and kombucha, they're different. Listen, find that bottle of vinegar that you have in the back of your shelf and look in the bottom. You see that stringy shit that's going on? It's the same thing that when you pick up the bottle of kombucha and you go, I can't drink this, that's gross. It's the same thing. It's essentially a living mass making now and again, I don't know necessarily enough about the biology to speak to it, but I just know that is the mother. That is what's kind of making it alive and making it good flora for your GI. That's where my knowledge kind of hits the skids, so that's where you come in. But again, I can hear people going, vinegar and kombucha isn't the same thing. Have you tasted vinegar? Have you tasted kombucha?
Have you tasted an overbrewed kombucha? Because vinegar or kombucha, if you let it go long enough, it'll brew into vinegar.
Hey, I actually have a small bottle of, it wasn't my last batch of beer that I brewed. It was 2 batches ago, and I left it out at room because, again, fermentation, you get interested. You're like, hey, let's see what happens if we do this. Literally, it got vinegary.
Yep.
Same reason. So, just so folks aren't confused, we're not saying kombucha is vinegar, vinegar is kombucha, but we're saying they're similar in nature.
Correct.
So, this starts to make sense to you. You start to get interested. You start to get deep, but you want to do it from scratch. And you like hot sauce, you like fermentation. What was the batch that was the lightning strike that made you go, wait a minute, this works? This totally works.
Because I've tried, there's many different formats, or not many, but there's 2 different formats of fermentation for like peppers. You can either do it in a brine, or you can do it in a style of mash. And mash is, in my opinion, far superior. It's just mashed up veggies, like blended up veggies with salt, and you just let it sit. Brine is a little bit different, where it's like cut up or chopped up or even whole veggies, and you do a percentage of salt ratio. It's like a brine, right?
Yep.
So I started leaning towards mash, and you got to thin that mash out. And a lot of times we'll use vinegar to thin the mash out. And when I tried doing the kombucha, because I'm like, well, kombucha and vinegar are essentially the same. It's just I can pull it at a different pH and not have to worry about it. That's the hit. Where, because I brought it to some friends, and I brought it, did some taste tests and stuff like that with friends, and they all preferred the kombucha one over the brine one, and that was the big aha moment.
Yeah, and that preference, was that based just on the salinity, on the salt content, or was there more to it?
It was more so based on the balance of flavors.
Gotcha.
So brine, when the salt content was essentially the same for both batches.
Okay.
When you're doing a brine, it actually has a lot more acidity and a lot more bite to it. That is reminiscent of a vinegar flavored hot sauce.
Okay.
The kombucha mellowed it out. So combining that lacto ferment with the acetic acid ferment, it mellows out the flavors.
Nice. And
it balances them more, and you can get a little bit more sweetness out of it. You can get a little bit more of the pepper flavor out of it. So it was all about the balance, and that's what you look for as a chef, for things to be balanced: salty, sweet, fatty, acid, all that stuff.
So that lactic acid fermentation then acts like, let's say, lactic acid in a milk stout. Like it provides
Correct.
A creamy experience. It's not necessarily cream or milk based in nature. It's just the acid that creates that feeling.
It's lactobacillus, the type of bacteria that creates that lactic acid. A lot of people take like a lactic acid for like lactose a lot, and they don't they don't really understand that it's produced by the lactobacillus bacteria. So that's what it is. And lactobacillus is literally on everything. Like, we don't even add a starter culture into our batch, because we just literally don't need to. Everything has so much like it's so prevalent in the world. It's on you, it's on veggies, it's on everything, that you just let it, put it in the right environment to flourish, basically.
So I can flourish anywhere. I appreciate that. That's motivation for me. I'm walking flourishment. So that, I mean, the whole process is amazing. And fast forward to today, here you are making sauce, kicking ass, taking names. It really is a unique experience. And I know I was fanboying to you before we hit record, and I'm going to do it again now, but it is honestly unlike anything else I've ever tasted. And I've had a lot of hot sauces, and I make hot sauce. And, again, pulling the curtain back, I always send a little, token gift to a guest for being on the show. I'm going to send you a bottle of my most recent. Please be gentle. But it's vinegar based, right?
No,
yeah, it's vinegar based. Yours isn't, and I know we've said that, but Jesus Christ, it is honestly one of the most unique things I've ever tasted. So I have to ask you, given your system, given your science, kombucha plus hot sauce, you make these wonderful blends: pineapple habanero, smoking hot date, the ghost pepper blend with it was kefir lime and lemongrass. Yeah.
Yes, correct. And
okay.
we use one of the biggest ingredients in there that you taste is what's called galangal.
Galangal. Yep.
It's a Thai root. It's like a cousin of ginger. It's very aromatic, and that's a lot of the aromatics you're getting on the sauce, and it's used in a lot of Thai curries.
That's a huge, massive shout out to Uncle Roger on YouTube, because I just got turned on to him thanks to my 11-year-old. Galangal. It's amazing. All the sauces are amazing, and so, folks, if you want to go out and find them, go to Down To Ferment, all one word.com, or Down To the number 2 Ferment on the Facebook and the Insta to check out what they have going on. But I gotta ask you, like, how did smoking hot date, pineapple habanero, maybe I've heard that combo before, but then galangal and lemongrass and ghost pepper I haven't. Where are you going to pull this inspiration from, dude?
Just like, hey, what can I make a balanced hot sauce out of,
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what it boils down to, is like how I really wanted to make a Thai inspired hot sauce.
Oh, man.
And having those flavors in there. It originally started out as like having a hot sauce be kind of like a tom yum soup, but then it kind of morphed into more of a Thai taco sauce. Because we felt it had a little bit more uses to it, and it was just I always like to tell people, especially with the Ghosted, it starts Thai and ends taco. So like you get all those aromas of a good Thai curry and those flavors initially, and then it starts to morph in that taco seasoning. And especially when I'm at the farmers markets, people are just standing there in awe, like, "Oh my God, you're right! It basically changed flavors on me."
Yeah, and I love how you called that. A Thai taco sauce, was it?
Yes.
That, honestly, now, having tasted it, again, folks, go back and watch the tries it, that makes a whole lot of sense. And now I'm thinking of, like, wow, if we did a larb, like a spicy pork salad in a tortilla with that on top, I might die, like, instantly. That might be perfect. So I'm going to have to do that. That's amazing. And speaking of inspiration, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up that you're coming up on a year, and I guess there's some celebratory anniversary sauce in the making?
Yeah, actually. We just hit our year anniversary this month. And,
nice. Happy anniversary, guys.
Thank you. We're super excited about it, and we just finished up. Actually, the funny thing is we just bottled it today. We just finished up our 1 year anniversary sauce, and I mean, I guess with you, I haven't really told anybody about it, so you're going to have like the first.
Woo, we got the big reveal, kids. Stay tuned.
We've been, previewing it and sneak peeking it, but nobody knows yet what it actually is.
Okay.
So basically, it's going to be our spiciest sauce yet. So take the Ghosted and add more spice to that.
Love it.
A scorpion pepper based sauce, but we just changed. We did a jerk sauce. So we did a Caribbean flared jerk sauce with the Trinidad scorpion pepper.
Beautiful. And
we call it the Jerkiversary.
I see what you did there. That's wonderful. That is wonderful. And the scorpion, it's interesting. I've done sauces with the Reaper, and they're hot, but they kind of back off. They're like, all right, we're going to fight, and then we're cool. The Trinidad scorpion is like the angry wife. It just sticks around and just glares at you for the next hour. And it's like, I thought we were good. Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
Today we were adjusting the seasonings on it and everything like that as we were doing it, and I was on an empty stomach.
Oh, Jesus.
Dying. I was like, I need to taste this and I need to try it just to make sure it's perfect and everything. And then it was just, adjust seasoning taste. And we're just sitting there dying because we're like, oh, this is so spicy, but so good.
Yeah. Oh, my God. I mean, how can you not love that? I have to ask, just because you're in the industry, you've obviously watched the industry for years. Typically, I ask the question, like, to you, in your opinion, what is the next big thing in food? I'm going to focus that down a little bit more and ask you, what's going to be the next big thing in hot sauce? And, I selfishly am like, I think I know already, because I'm talking to it. But, is it fermentation? Is fermentation getting into the process the next big thing, or is there something else on the horizon?
So, the funny thing about fermented hot sauce is it's been around for hundreds of years.
Sure.
There's a little thing called Tabasco.
Yep, amen.
A lot of people don't know that Tabasco is actually fermented, and it's fermented for 3 full years. And they ferment it in wooden barrels. And I don't quote me on this. I don't know if they're like a certain style of oak or something like that. I know they're not like wine or whiskey barrels or anything like that, but I think it's just straight certain type of wood. But they've been doing that for years. Fermentation is just that ancient preservation technique. A lot of sauces don't actually claim fermentation, even though they use it, and a lot of hot sauces use fermented mashes that they purchase commercially from farms and stuff like that, because it's just a way of preserving the peppers. So it's hard to say what the new thing is, because so many good small business hot sauce companies are doing so many good things already.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, I mean, I'm the only kombucha-based hot sauce that I know of. Right?
I love it. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
It was something that I wanted to delineate myself on. You know, I wanted to be different in some way. I just didn't want to fall into all the other hot sauces. Like, oh, it's just, you know, vinegar. It's just this. It's just that.
Oh, I'm going to make your face peel off. No one cares.
Yeah.
Like,
and that's the thing is, like, we just made our hottest sauce to date, and, you know, it's really hot, but it's only because a lot of our customers really wanted something to, like, knock their socks off.
Yeah.
And it's a limited batch, too. It's a limited run of it.
Ooh,
so it's going to be very exclusive. I think this batch is only going to be 480 bottles, and then it's gone. Love it.
And I mean, it sounds wonderful. Just for quick information, ladies and gentlemen, I flew to the Googles, and according to Tabasco's website, they use decommissioned white oak bourbon barrels.
Bourbon, okay, that's what it was.
Which I mean,
I knew it was oak. I just didn't know which ones.
White oak bourbon barrels, and I mean, I'll be honest. I'm like, damn, I think I could get a barrel and maybe start to ferment my own because, again, kids, this process introduces a flavor, and I mean, Tabasco is still vinegary in nature.
It's mostly vinegary in nature. That's the thing. I mean. No knock on Tabasco. You like vinegar, you know, that's fine. That's completely okay. But I wanted to be more flavor. Think of Tabasco as like the parsley on the plate in the culinary trend. You know?
Yeah. No, I get it.
Definitely more to it. You know, we don't want to stay with tradition, even though there's nothing wrong with tradition sometimes. And when it comes to certain things, if it works, it works. But we always want to move forward and find new and better things.
No, I agree. And that new and better thing is definitely kombucha hot sauce, in my opinion, with the 1-year anniversary sauce limited edition coming up, the Scorpion Jerk, the Jerkiversary, as it were. You know, so with 1 year in the books and with rampant success and amazing talent in your scope, I gotta ask, what's next for you, man? Like, what's the 5-year plan? Talk to me.
Ideally, what I want to do is expand. Like, we're down to ferment, so I want a catalog that's going to be large, right? I want to be a large catalog of products that we can, you know, have on our website, you know, kimchi's, mustards, like all sorts of different things that we can utilize. The focus right now is definitely hot sauce, and we're not going to drop that at all. And that's like our flagship. However, we do want to branch off into, you know, other types of condiments and whatnot and maybe keep that kombucha theme, you know, throughout all of them.
Because like if you fermented garlic in a kombucha, holy shit! Like I can only start to imagine how that
garlic kombucha. It's the new thing right here. You heard it, Sean, right there.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Like if you really want to offend everybody in your community, not only is it really acidic, but it's going to make your breath stink for days. I just solved that problem. That's what I do. I solve problems. I help people. So no matter what direction it goes in, I can guarantee you this shit is going to be off the charts. Down to ferment.com, down #2 ferment on the Facebook and the Insta. Let's hit the afters real quick, Shawn Kirkpatrick. Even though you spell your first name wrong, I'm just going to stoke your emotions a little bit to get some raw answers to these next questions. You and I are cooking. We're either working a service or just cooking in a kitchen. You pick, and you won the coin toss, and you get to play DJ. What kind of music are we listening to?
Oh, 100%. So I'm very eclectic when it comes to music,
sure.
But there's only one genre that really gets me like fully pumped, and that's metal in the kitchen.
Hell yes.
I'm listening to Whitechapel, Bring Me the Horizon.
Ooh, okay.
A Day to Remember, like something along those lines that really like just gets me pumped and ready to go for service, and it's always worked without fail.
Absolutely, hands down, no question. Have to ask you, in retrospect, given that it was not 24 hours ago, what'd you think of the halftime show?
To be completely honest,
yes,
I didn't watch the Super Bowl for the first time this year. I didn't even remotely care, to be completely honest.
But it was a California team that won, so like you had that.
I know, but you know what? So I'm born and raised San Diego. Yeah. And the fact that San Diego, like, it up and left and went to LA, and I'm sore.
You're still bitter. I can get that.
I'm gonna be bitter, and I know it's all Dean Spanos and whatever, and that family, whatever. They that left a terrible impression on me, and you know what? I used to be so hyper into football, fantasy, everything. Yeah. I just stopped caring.
You just stopped caring. Well, listen.
Happened, I'm just like, you know what? Screw it. I don't need to care about this anymore.
I got you. Listen, I'm a Steelers fan, so I don't want to hear anything you have to say. I have been depressed rampantly and perpetually for the past 10 plus effing years. Like, we're good. Okay, cool. So, next question. We're going to airdrop you on a deserted island, fictitious one at that. And you can bring with you 3 foods or food-type items, inexhaustible supply, but only 3. What would they be and why?
You know what? I asked this because I used to date a lot and whatnot, and that was one of my biggest questions. Is like, give me your top 3 food items because I want to see if we're compatible right now.
Oh, I love that. Yep.
So, and it was really hard for me. It's really hard for me to even decide. I'm a very decisive person in general. Yeah. But when it comes to food, I'm like, I don't know. I want everything. Mm-hmm. So I've thought about this question a lot, actually. So first food item is going to be a poke/chirashi bowl.
Love it.
So I've been to Japan twice just to eat their food. Like, I had to fly to that country just to go eat their food because I am absolutely in love with it.
Adore that.
So any kind of chirashi bowl. Next on the list is going to be steak tartare.
Beautiful.
I love steak tartare. And I know I just listed off 2 raw foods.
Listen, you're going to be on an island, dude.
I know, true. Like, it's going to be easy prep, you know? I don't have to light a fire, nothing.
And, by the way, for the fermentation guy, let me pick this one up and say, when you eat raw foods, you introduce more natural elements into your gut, and it helps your gut health. Moving on.
Correct.
Moving on.
And the third one is probably gonna have to be mac and cheese. And I don't even I don't want to commit all the way because there's so many things I love, but mac and cheese is just that ultimate comfort food.
I love how literal dollar store you just got. Like in the drop of a hat, you're like, yeah, you know what else I want after all that expensive shit? I want some mac and cheese. All right, cool.
No, 100%. It could be Kraft. It could be those like little kids' kitchens that you heat up in the microwave. Like,
I get it. I get it.
I don't care. It just needs to be mac and cheese.
That's wonderful. That is phenomenal. Hey, have you ever checked out My Last Supper by Melanie Denea? Coffee table book.
No, I haven't, but it does ring a bell. It is familiar to me.
She is incredible. She's a photographer of celebrities and more specifically celebrity chefs. She did My Last Supper and then the next Coarse. Folks who have seen Bourdain with the beef femur hanging between his legs and nothing else on. That's a picture Melanie took, and she used it in the book. And so 50 world-famous chefs get asked the same question. Your ticket's getting punched tomorrow. Tonight's your last ride. What are you eating? What are you drinking? Who's there? And why? So, Shawn Kirkpatrick, tell me about your last meal.
Oh, God. Damn, I tend to overthink these questions like crazy.
Dude, because same. I feel you 100%. So
I don't want to do the wrong answer and have it come to fruition tomorrow and be like, I already decided. Last meal. What does that look like? Honestly, probably my comfort food of chirashi. I love raw fish and rice. It's like there's no other better combination to me.
Same.
It's probably going to be that with a little bit of a nice cup of genmaicha tea for just that mellowness. Maybe even a glass of Yamazaki 18 whiskey.
Yes.
My all-time favorite whiskeys.
First of all, and here I'm totally buying you time, so think a little bit more. The Japanese have the market cornered on clean as shit alcohol. If you ever want to feel good about what you drink Japanese stuff. It doesn't matter what it is. It's good. It's all good. It's all clean.
It's delicious. That's what it is.
Yep.
I absolutely love it. I fell in love with it the first time I went to, and I'm a big Scotch drinker. I love, Islay style Scotches and whatnot. But I fell in love with the Yamazaki, especially the 18 one, when on my first trip to Japan. I was just like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Yeah. No, totally. Who's there? Who you eating it with?
Honestly, the people I care about the most. Life is only worth living if you surround yourself with those good people that you love and care about the most. So,
love that.
Friends and family.
Damn. Beautiful. And the music act playing in the background, you can have them live if you want. And they can be dead, and they can be brought back.
Oh, God, dude. That's hard. It's probably, honestly, Tool.
Maynard fan as well. We got to talk offline.
Oh, yeah, man. I've seen him live twice, and I love him every single time.
He's definitely something. Amazing. And Shawn Kirkpatrick, you made it to the end of the interview. One last question stands in your way. The simplest and the most complex. What is food to you in a single word?
Passion.
Love it. He didn't even flinch. He took that bullet. He's like, nah, hold my beer. I got this. Passion.
If you don't have passion in your food, you don't have anything.
And the passion.
You have literally box stuff.
Amen. Well, and again, it's what brought you away from corporate, and it's what put you in the seat tonight. And I honestly count myself among the very lucky to have connected with you, sir. Thank you so much for hanging out on the mics with us tonight. Downtoferment.com, down ferment on the Facebook and the Insta. Be sure to check out their 1-year anniversary sauce, the Scorpion Jerk, aka the Jerkiversary, along with other just brilliant combinations that make no sense and make total sense, such as their Ghosted, their Smoking Hot Date, and their Pineapple Habanero. Am I missing anything, dude?
I mean, you could talk about the Dad Bod where we put hops in a hot sauce.
Okay, didn't get that one sent to me, so couldn't do the homework, but I appreciate that. I do appreciate that. That is beautiful. So, again, folks, listen up. They're doing cool things. They're doing innovative things. Stop buying the regular hot sauce that you go to. If you want a bottle of vinegar, go buy a bottle of vinegar. You want a bottle of hot sauce? Find a real hot sauce. And it's right here with downtoferment.com. And Shawn Kirkpatrick. Shawn, thank you again so much for being here tonight, buddy.
No problem, man. Just remember, everyone, support your local businesses. Shop local. Go to farmers markets. Support those people.
Amen. What he just said. Shawn Kirkpatrick, episode number 184 in the books. Our producer, as always this evening, has been the lovely, voluptuous Johnny Leland Robinson, a.k.a. the Reverend Johnny Lamoria. Be sure to check out all his cinematic libertarian happenings in the 18431 on the Book of Face and Beyond. And our next episode will be number 185. Stay tuned.
Retour aux sources, avance vers le passé. Retour aux sources, batterie rechargée. Retour aux sources, enfin tout recommencer. Retour aux sources pour se régénérer. Retour aux sources, avance vers le passé. Retour aux sources, batterie rechargée. Retour aux sources, enfin tout recommencer.
Are you passing through central Pennsylvania and looking for one of the best dining experiences and craft brew menus around? Look no further. Turkey Hill Brewing Company and 991 Central Road in Bloomsburg, PA has everything you could ask for and then some. Service, food, beer together. Unbelievable. Be sure to check them out. Call them today for reservations. 570-387-8422. Call today.